Shalom, everybody. Today we'll talk a little bit about Yom Tov because there's only 3 days for Sukkot. So today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, Bezat Hashem, we'll try to cover some basic stuff. So yesterday in Rashi class, we learned about the whole list of the Yom Tovs, of the Moadim, and the Torah very clearly says, Ele Moadei Adonai Asher Tikru Otam Mikrei Kodesh. These are the celebrated times, the appointed times that you shall call and declare as Mikrei Kodesh, as holy days, to bring an Yishel Hashem, Olam Mincha, etc. And the Talmud says that instead of reading it Otam, Aleph Taf Mem, without the Vav, could be Atem, meaning that you are the ones who determine when the holiday is. So if the witnesses come and we check them and we investigate that they really did see the new moon, even if afterwards we find out that they were wrong, we already declared the new month, and so we continue with that. There's a very famous story in the Talmud about Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Gamliel, who were arguing about the kosherness of these witnesses, and Rabbi Gamliel commanded Rabbi Yoshua to come to him on Yom Kippur according to his calculation, which was the day before, the day after, and to come with him with his walking staff and his wallet to show that he's not keeping Yom Kippur, but according to our understanding, he actually did fast 2 days and respected Rabbi Gamliel and came like he ordered him. So let's just go into the laws of Yom Tov Sheni, because Rav Melamed has a beautiful explanation about the history of how it came to be. Because I think that other than the regular laws of Yom Tov, we all know pretty much. So according to the Torah law, every Yom Tov is exactly 1 day. Indeed, this is the practice in Eretz Israel on every Yom Tov, except for Rosh Hashanah. However, in the Diaspora, the sages ordained that an additional day be celebrated so that instead of 1 day of Yom Tov, there are two. The second day is referred to as Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galuyot, which means the extra day of Yom Tov observed in the Diaspora. So, according to Rav Melamed, even the prophet Ezekiel, and Daniel, which we don't consider a prophet, but even they observed Yom Tov Sheni in Babylon. And so it says like this. This is the meaning of the verse. This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. The sages explained, God showed Moshe the form of the new moon and said, testifying to this has been placed in your hands. Your hands refers to those of judges with ordination, smicha, which was transferred in an unbroken chain from the time of Moshe until the second exile. And so after the month was sanctified, messengers would depart to all the parts of Eretz Israel to spread the news. And then when there was more of outside of Israel, when it grew larger, he's going to get to that right now. Second Temple period. During the time of the Second Temple, a large Jewish community remained in Babylon. At first, information about the sanctification of the new moon was conveyed to the diaspora Jews by means of bonfires. The Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah describes how they would light these huge torches and wave them from mountaintop to mountaintop in order for everybody to see. And it would reach throughout the night, it would reach all the communities, even as far as Babylon, which is Iraq of today. But at some point, it says here the Samaritans, or it could be a different people who did not accept the authority of Beit Din, started lighting their own fires in order to confuse the diaspora Jews. So we started doing shlichim, and because the shlichim had to go further and further, then they just started keeping 2 days completely, skipping to the bottom paragraph. The exception, of course, was Yom Kippur, which was kept for only 1 day, the first of its two possible days. In other words, Yom Kippur was observed on a day that would be the 10th of Tishrei if Elul turned out to be chaser of 29 days, because it usually is. The vast majority of the time Elul was indeed 29 days, and today it is that way. According to Torah law, we follow the majority. For the same reason, technically, one would be obligated to keep a Yom Tov only on the first of its two possible days, but it was the sages who instituted the 2-day observance, and they themselves decided that since it would be very difficult to fast for 2 consecutive days, on Yom Kippur we only observe one day. Let's just cover one more part of this chapter, which actually told me the date. I never knew what the year was that Hillel II instituted the calendar that we have today. After the destruction of the Second Temple, the Jewish community in Eretz Israel became smaller and smaller, while the community in Babylon grew. Nevertheless, the authority to sanctify the months and to declare leap years remained in the hands of the sages of Eretz Israel. Only on rare occasions, such as the Great Rebellion, did this change. The situation in Eretz Israel then was so horrific, judges who had been ordained in Eretz Israel left the country for areas where Jews were not persecuted, and it would have sounded very, very strange to us, but during World War II, there were actually governments that exiled themselves to all kinds of places. The government of China went to Taiwan. The government of the occupied France went to England. The Queen of Holland went to Canada. That's a story for a different time. And so over the course of time, Roman persecution grew worse, and it was specifically against the Jewish calendar because they wanted a unified calendar for the whole Roman Empire, because they went according to which emperor was there. And so if it's year 10 of Nero or year 17 of Alexander or whatever, that's what they wanted. They did not want anybody else to have any kind of other calendar, but of course it also hurt us because we have a mitzvah to sanctify the months. So things deteriorated to such an extent that at the end of the Amoraic period, when Abaye and Rava lived, Hillel II came to the conclusion that it was no longer viable for the Beit Din in Eretz Israel to ordain rabbis and sanctify the months, with the authority vested in him having inherited the position of Nasi directly from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Hillel II and his Beit Din calculated the months and years and sanctified them for the long term ever since then, which is 4119 of the Jewish calendar, 359 of the Common Era. The Jewish people have kept track of the months and years based on the system. I just wanted to add two more points. One is that the closer you are to Eretz Israel, you might ask yourself, why can't we just keep like Eretz Israel? And the second is that in Eilat, the chief rabbi of Eilat follows the Rambam's opinion, and so he does keep 2 days. But Rabbi Melamed has a beautiful explanation of the understanding of how this holiness is construed. So, as with the rest of the Torah, the halachic reality reflects the spiritual reality. In Eretz Israel, holiness is more manifest, and therefore the holiness of the holidays can be absorbed in one day, as the Torah requires. In contrast, those in the diaspora are further away from the manifestation of holiness, and therefore they need 2 days to absorb the light of the Yom Tov as the sages ordained. And this can be compared, or like a analogy, to a flashlight. When a flashlight is illuminating a nearby location, the light is strong and focused on a small area. In contrast, when it is used to illuminate a distant location, the light is weak and diffused over a larger area. So too, in Eretz Yisrael, the light of the holidays is focused and concentrated into one day, while in the diaspora, the light is weaker and diffused over 2 days. So I don't know who wrote Derech Mitzvotecha, but it's a beautiful explanation for understanding the second day of Yom Tov. And we'll stop here and continue tomorrow with other laws of Yom Tov and Chol HaMoed.